Hey guys, this is Valde from Moji here. Danish Counter-Strike is one hell of a drug, but so is Thorin's YouTube channel.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Reflections, and my guest for this one is going to be Jaden, who is an old school North American Counter-Strike pro. Well, he was a pro back then. Obviously, this is a lifetime ago now. Right, here's where I want to start, Jaden. Right, there's actually, if people know the history of your career, there is actually quite a famous origin story, because it's actually the origin story of three different people. They could all be heroes in the NA scene. One's Jaden, one's to Bears, so everyone's with me so far. Third one is Funk. No one else is going to know who that is, but he was almost like a villain character, I guess. So what I want to start is this. You were all on this team called Elite Underground, which is a team, I assume it was like a LAN team or something. You were coming to the one of the first big CPLs, the one with all like the $50,000 and NIP and X3 and all these. Everyone knows these teams in these parts, but obviously the problem is people only know the teams that placed at the end, whereas in NA CPLs, I think it was like 128 team tournaments, loads of people went for the BMYOC, and your team was one of like the underdog NA teams that made a little run here, right? So what was this era like? Because as I said, like no one knew you, the Bears. This is like kind of what made you break out on the scene, right?
Oh yeah, that was wild. So Elite Underground is the first real team. There were quite a few of us that were local to St. Louis that we'd just LAN every weekend and play. And so it was me, the Bears, we had Ghetto Smurf and a handful of other guys. We'd get together and play and just kept developing and developing. And then David, so Funk came on. We had Nutshot. I forgot about him. We went to the CPL relatively unknown. We started, beating some good teams and built some credibility. I think we won 2 games and lost 2, but it was a hell of an experience, and I think it really took us to the next level. The performance. I mean, the Bears. I mean, I love looking at his Facebook and seeing what he's become. It's pretty awesome that the two of us kind of grew up together and built our careers.
Okay, so one thing that is actually an interesting detail, and again, old school people know where this story is going, but modern fans are going to be like, what the fuck? I've never heard this. So the whole reason why I said, especially for you, maybe Funk is sort of a villain character, is because even though he's your teammate, this story ends really badly, and Jaden genuinely just hated this guy for like half a decade afterwards. But you'll see why. There's a good reason why, which is, as you're saying, you were making this little run, and I remember you were playing against, I think it was like the Danish team, like Spirit of Amiga or something, like some actual fucking pro team, like real players. Yeah. And what happened was, when you were playing against this team, and your team's on this underground, right? This is the thing people have to understand about the old days. People really did used to have like whole rosters. It wasn't just like 5 players. And everyone's not pro back then. So at the time, your team actually had a 6th player. As you said, you had this player called Nutshot, right? And what people won't know is he was actually a known player already. He'd been on like the extended roster of like X3 and like these teams. But obviously, because you can only take 5 to play in the game, X3 had their 5, and he was like, the 6th or 7th best player. So as a result, he had a name and he was a legit good player. And so the story goes, and you can complete the rest of it. Basically, the gist of it is, because there was obviously only 5 can get to play in this game, and on paper, you're probably going to lose, but it's the big game that everyone wants to play in to show their skills off. The Funk guy, who would, let's be real, have been the guy who had to sit out, he realised, sort of like, wait a minute, that they don't know where the Nutshot guy is. I do know where he is. If I said I didn't know where he was, then I'd have to, I don't know where he is, bro. And then famously, he didn't just play the game. He did like a classic. Like, he didn't just even get 0 kills, guys. He got like the -1 kills where you get naded or you create or something. So he did like a -1 to 12. It used to be max rounds 12. And then obviously everyone was upset when they found out later. Like, the fuck? Like, you knew. And then there's even a mad part at the end where this part is a bit out of order, I'll say. As a grown man, I don't appreciate this part at all. But it was funny at the time. People weren't just mad at him when he like left. People basically sort of like, imagine like a movie where like, vultures all come in and eat something, and when they go away, it's just bones. They did that to his PC in the BYOC, right? So give me the gist of this story. This is what happened, right? He sort of fucked you guys over, and then, I mean, it's kind of like street justice, but someone just fucked him over, right, in a way, right? Give me the story from your POV.
Oh yeah, we were going to go play on, I believe it was Aztec. And when as a team, we went, okay, here are the 5 guys that are going to play. Funk's going to sit this one, and the countdown starts, and we got to get our 5 guys, and we could not find Nutshot anywhere. And it turns out he was taking a nap, and nobody knew where he was. The big conflict in this, right, is did Funk know where he was or not? And people tend to believe that he did.
In theory, we can't know, but the problem is, if you know who Funk was, he was a notorious clan hopper. Like he was just a slightly sketchy guy. So unfortunately, it seems too believable that he didn't know where the guy was, but like only fake, and that he sort of did know. Like I said, that he gets to play, right? If you just know his character, it feels like it's in line with what probably happened, right?
Yeah, it does. It lines up, and so we played. We ended up losing. He had the infamous match. I remember seeing him at -1 and 9, and it was a close game, but felt like, oh man, if we would have had Nutshot, we would have won. And so all the drama and then to find Nutshot like right after the game, we walk out and there you see his standing
right
there, and I lost it. Like, where the hell were you? You screwed us over. And he's like, he told me, like, I told Funk that I was taking a nap right in that corner. And that's when all hell broke loose. And I totally forgot about his computer.
Thing is, and technically, I will state, you guys weren't involved with that though, right? That was like some other shit where like people heard and they just did that to his PC, right? You guys didn't do that.
No, I didn't touch anything. But yeah, his computer got sacked. I remember people saying that, and at the time it felt like street justice. And looking back, I kind of figured this would come up at some point, in this interview, that because I remember we interviewed back in 2001. I think it was the same CPL, I'd hate to sit there and just throw him under the bus and everything, because I think we rekindled. That's water under the bridge at this
Fair
point.
enough.
But yeah, oh man, I forgot about his PC. Just got ripped apart. Yeah, that was a wild CPL, and that whole episode, nobody will forget that. And wow, I'm sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I forgot about that.
By the way, one thing I want to ask, and it's going to obviously be something about more than just the CPL, but one thing I know is, because I was on like the European side where we were going, and look, we weren't pro ourselves, but like we fly in there, and you're in the hotel, and you go for just a tournament, and if you're from like Sweden or Germany or whatever, you're there like as if you are a pro, like the next match, and but I know that for the NA pros, it was a totally different experience, because first of all, some of you weren't like pros at the time, and even if you were like pro in teams, you guys would sometimes go in like a fucking van across the US, just all the way to get there, and there'd be 10 people in one hotel room, and when you would go there, you wouldn't just play like the pros would and go to bed. You guys would just be playing all night in the BYOC. It was kind of like a fucking like camp or some shit for you guys, right?
For sure. Some of my like fondest memories of those times were going to a tournament in Indianapolis or in Louisville, just smaller tournaments, and you'd have a whole warehouse full of people and computers, and it was just 24/7 or all night, all weekend. Everybody was just playing hard, and going with Fatality. Like I remember, so Fatality would come and we would LAN, just the two of us, at my house over the weekends. And some guys from Boston were like, "Hey, there's a tournament. We'll pay for your airfare if you come play with us." And so we'd go fly to Boston over the weekend and hang out with them, stay in their house, win the tournament. Hey, you get all the money if we win, it's $2,000. And so John and I would just fly out there, win a tournament, hang out, have a great time, and then fly home. Oh man, it was like an every weekend. We always tried to find some place to go. It
must have been surreal then, because if people don't know, this is when Fatality's already been like a super famous Quake player, like the #1 player in the world, Michael Jordan, all that shit that people say. But if people don't know, on the side, because he did play a lot of games, he played CS as well. Look, he wasn't as good in CS, obviously, but he's still good. So like that must have been surreal in itself. If Fatality's like, "Yeah, do you want to come play, mate?"
Oh yeah, he'd come over and we'd go bounce back and forth from Counter-Strike to Quake, and I mean sometimes the skills transfer. I would go play Quake with him, and he would beat the shit out of him. I mean, made me feel like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Deathmatch 17, he'd beat me 117 to -15. Okay. Like, oh, such a dick. But he was incredible. He taught me a lot from a competitive standpoint and a mindset standpoint, how to compete in these tournaments. So it was a blast. I mean, Ksharp, he was in Memphis at the time, so he was only.
Yeah, you guys were all in like a similar circle of the US, right?
Oh yeah. We'd hang out all the time. It was a blast. Looking back at that, I was trying, after you messaged me, I've been trying to like think about all these different events, and going to New York City with McDermott and Rival. 3D, man, there was always something going on. And I remember being in high school and then in college, kids would ask, hey, we're going to have a bonfire, and a barbecue this weekend. You want to go? And I'd be like, oh, sorry, I got to go to New York City, or I got to go to Vegas or something. And it was a blast. I really enjoyed my time when I was gaming. It was a surreal experience.
Well, after this, in this scenario, like I said, even though that CPL didn't end with like the true ending that you'd want in a movie where you go super deep and you're the hero team and stuff, it still actually did parlay into something pretty crazy, which is the best team in NA at the time was X3, which if people don't know was like a super team of NA players. And the whole thing is they were the ones famously that played NIP in the final. That was like the super team of Swedish players. And after this team, they broke up after this event, not that long afterwards. And at the time, it was like one of the first real times that it wasn't just like teams where one people joined at a time. There was like, they almost became like free agents. So like a few of them were going to potentially go to different teams. I remember you all playing different clans. I think you guys were in like briefly in like Dark Side or something together. It was like you and Bears and fucking Ksharp. And then what happened was like Rambo was trying to join like Riot Squad with his old teammates. And then what happened was they made a team, obviously called Team3D, but you guys got to be in it, you and the Bears. And so that's pretty crazy in itself that like super legendary players, like 3 of the X3 players ask you to join. How did that happen?
Oh man, I can't quite remember when that all went down, but I remember Eric and the Bears and I were just like, oh man, to be on a team with Ksharp, Rambo, Bullseye, Bears, like we can do some cool stuff here. And so we were all about it. And are you familiar with how Team3D got their name?
No, it's some stupid thing about like the desire discipline. That's not what the fuck wasn't it?
The 3D, it was Rambo. He was in high school. He saw some poster and it said desire, discipline, dedication. And he's like, hey, we should be Team 3D.
If people don't know, by the way, because I know Rambo quite well, he is like a really nerdy Asian kid. So he would think that would be cool. Everyone else would think that was cheesy as fuck, innit? But he would think that was cool. Like, yeah, it's a good name. Like, he's kind of a bit straight edge like that, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we got along. It was like, the one thing I look back into all the teams, it was just, we had so much fun and everybody clicked really well. And so, yeah, we formed 3D, did a lot of, online leagues and we're doing really well. We get to the CPL and I'll never forget Kabul. If you remember playing,
yes,
we played
F-Zero, the Australian team. Yeah. No, by the way, no one's ever heard of anyone from Australia at this time. Like that's where if you get the bracket and you see some team from another country like South Africa, you just go, or like South America, you go, forget it. That's easy. We're going to win this one. Yep. No one ever thought this team was going to win a game.
No, and when we played, we were terrorists first, and we beat the snot out of them like 10-2 on the terrorist side, and that's like, look, we got this in the bag. And then we start playing we won pistol round.
Almost gamed up then, yeah.
11-2. This is easy. Great job, guys. And we lost every single round after that because they exploited that flashbang over the wall. And you'd walk into B right after, you spawn. You run over there as fast as you can. And you were flashbanged until you were dead.
And no one knew this exploit at the time. No one knew what was happening, right? You were just suddenly blind, right?
We were just sitting there looking at each other like, how the hell did they just flash us? Like, those were perfect flashes. And man, the frustration just kicked in. And we tried everything from, running around behind them we tried to adjust, but just couldn't. And that one really hurt us. I think that just killed us mentally. And I think we ended up winning one more and lost another. So we placed 17 to 34th or whatever. And that was a huge kick in the nuts for that team. I mean, you took a look at that roster at the time.
Oh, it was bad, and
5 of the top 20 players all playing together. And to have that kind of performance. So we just, I remember everything was going right. And then starting the second round in Kabul, it was like, it was brutal. And then the repercussions of that, right? Or after that.
I mean, it kind of tarnished you and Bears' rep for a while because obviously the others were all proven, so they were fine. They could keep going on and get different players. But the rep at the time was everyone said you just chokers and like it was harder to get teams, right?
Right. And so so then after that, I believe Eric and I went to Riot Squad.
You did, but he went to like other smaller teams. I think at the time it was that shit, if you remember, where you had like some, I won't say who, but you had like a weird girlfriend that was sort of influencing him, and he was often some shit teams, dude. I think he was in like Eminence and stuff. I have a good memory for this stuff, mate. I won't say a name, but you know who I'm talking about. The one that's like, I want to go to Korea. Like, that's enough already. I've given too much away already. So he was off doing his own thing. Listen, everyone knows the Bears. He's a weird guy. But you went to Riot Squad, because here's the thing I was going to say. Because you went to Riot Squad, you actually did like pretty well at the next CPL. Like 7th or 8th or something. You kind of like got the status back. It was like, right, I could be a good player again. Like, people don't kind of think I'm shit, right? That must have been a big deal to do that.
Oh man, that felt fantastic. And that team, boy, that felt like home. Like when I look back, every team holds a special place in my heart. But that team, man, we had so much fun. Ice Salmon, Sickness, Electric, and
Grassel.
Indian. Yeah, Grassel, Indian Boy too. Just a great team. And we played so well. I remember, so before that CPL, for like 3 weeks, we all LAN together in Dallas, in Plano.
Right.
And we had some European teams. So, man, so there was a guy, Quick. What team was he on?
He was on like the Team 9 Esports United with Vestlin and those guys.
Vestlin, that was the other one. So I remember landing and there was just a break, hey, you guys want to play 2v2? So it was me and Sickness versus Vestlin and Quick.
I've heard the Quick guy was a really good aimer, mate.
Oh, unbelievable. These guys were so talented. And Thorin, I'll never forget, we beat him 24-0.
Oh, okay. That's a little ego boost. Yeah, okay.
Oh. And but we practiced with these guys, for 3 weeks. They helped us out a ton. We helped them a ton. And then and we went into the CPL. I know we lost to Weekend Warriors. I know that they were the ones who knocked us out, and it was a close game. And I'll say that they had way more patience than I ever expected them to. They played, it was Kabul again. And I remember that they went super slow. Everything that they did just was, methodical. They played phenomenal. And we played great too. That was my favorite CPL. Obviously, we placed 7th place. That's great. But that was my favorite. That was such a good time. And there's so many good stories. Actually, we went to New York City, and so Bobby was there. So Sickness, Ice Salmon, we all went there, and then something happened. Somebody asked, like, hey, why don't you guys come to our LAN center in Queens?
Okay.
And come play best 2 out of 3, and whoever wins, you know what? If you guys win, we'll give you $150 or something. So we end up taking the subway or the train to Queens, and again, none of us have a fucking clue how to get around New York. We're all from Midwest and stuff so we go there, and we end up playing till like 1 a.m. All right, we got to get back to the hotel. I think we take this train. So we're sitting up there. It's cold. We're all kind of miserable at this point, waiting for the train. Train shows up. Bobby, super excited. He can't. Oh, thank God. He takes his jacket and starts swinging it around, all excited. And the conductor of the train, he reaches out, grabs Bobby's, hoodie as he's going by and slowing down. He stops. Everybody gets on. We look at Bobby. Hey, go get your sweatshirt. And the conductor's hanging out there, like, hey, come get this. He starts running up there. Conductor pulls it in, closes the window, and leaves him.
Just to be an asshole because he's from New York. Okay.
We just see Bobby standing there. He looked so sad and scared. He was like, what do I do? I'll never forget that. Oh my God. We had such good times.
By the way, I should tell people the context, because when you say you came 7th, obviously in the modern day, someone's going to be like, who gives a shit? People don't understand. Back then, you only make the finals or top 3 if you are Team3D or some top team with all the best players. Making top 8 was really good. Like I said, so 128 team tournament, and there's a whole bunch of European teams. Making top 8 was a big deal, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I still see the names of most of those teams around. It's crazy. So yeah, we did really well, and after that event, I can't quite remember the timeline, but we ended up going. The Bears and I reunited in the Elite
TEC.
Yeah.
TEC, yes.
And so I can't remember why Riot Squad fell apart, whatever happened there, but we went to TEC, and so it was me, Bears, Goki, Elude, Exile, and Revenge. If you remember Alex Revenge, he was a little Russian kid from Canada. And I remember, I think we were the first team to beat Team3D at a LAN event.
KillerLAN.
Yeah, it was KillerLAN. Yep. And it went to overtime. I remember it was Dust 2. And that was a huge thing too. So on top of like Riot Squad, placing to beat Team3D there, that was a really good win for us, and especially Bears. So now like we're going again. Here we go.
And also, obviously, the premise was it was kind of like Revenge. They're the guys who kicked you out and brought in the superstar players, and you kind of got to beat them and show them again we're legit.
Yep, exactly. So that felt really good, and it wasn't any hard feelings against those guys. We were all
sure.
Yeah, but it did feel good, Thorin. And then we went to the CPL with TEC, and we did another 2-2.
Sending the bomb out, yes.
Like, oh shit! But the team that we lost to was it Rival? I don't know. Like it was some Canadian team, and man,
Evil Geniuses maybe.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of us. I mean, it was brutal, and it was on some weird map. I can't remember. Anyway, so then so the Elite Clan, that was another good one. Great guys, a lot of fun, a lot of great LAN events. And then after that broke up, I think I did a little time in Rival.
Yeah, I think briefly. Before they maybe changed to the other roster or whatever. I've got a quick question though. Like, obviously, if people follow the story here, so like, you're in the Elite United, or Elite Underground. That was like a decent team, but they didn't place that highly. Then you go to Team3D, CPL Bombs. You have a good CPL in the Riot Squad thing. Bears is off. Bears comes back. TEC's looking awesome. The story's always that it's looking awesome right before the CPL. He goes to CPL, they bomb again. Right? This is where the infamous De Beers curse was spawned, because everyone was like, dude, the only connecting factor here is De Beers. Like, any team he's in, just, it doesn't matter. And here's the key thing. What people never understood was this. It wasn't De Beers is bad. Everyone knew from online. And like you said, he's played a million LANs. And if he played any LAN, like KillerLAN, like the other ones, as long as it wasn't with CPL written in the name, it was just really good. But if he went to CPL, I've always said this to De Beers, I even told it to his face. I don't in theory believe in curses and jinxes, but I actually do believe in the De Beers curse, because I have seen shit happen to this one guy that never happens. Like, I'll give you an example. I once saw later, literally when he was in United 5, I remember I saw a fucking PC just turn off that he was on playing it. He was in like a 1v1 or something, dude. Like, the PC just turns off. Then at this tournament you're talking about, I even remember a detail here. It was actually to do with you, I think, but this is the curse of De Beers. In one of the games you lost here, right? Remember, it's only MR12 back then, so there's not many rounds. It was a round where, like, you guys need to get back in the game. And I think it was you or someone was like, oh, throw me the AWP. Someone throws it, but they did the jump thing. And it just goes behind one of those fences on, like, Inferno or some or Mill or something. And you can't get to it. It's just stuck behind. And like, dude, this is the sort of thing where it's like, I know eventually years later, like in 2005 or something, he got like a run that was good, like get third or fourth or something. But like, this guy had the craziest bad luck I've ever seen, dude. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's funny you mentioned that, because there was another one in that tournament. It was against SK. And we played, it was the first round of the game. And pistol round, I vividly remember this. We went through, they actually had a great strat. They were hitting A. They were wiping people out, but I remember being close to spawn, and I was just in the zone, and it was just like headshot, headshot, headshot. I took out 3 guys, and then it's a 1v1. Who was that SK guy? His name started with a P.
Potty. Legendary clutch player.
Legendary. And it was me versus him, and it turned out he had like 8 health, right? So I go over to fake defuse the bomb, and somehow mouse 3 got pressed, and it alt-tabbed me out of Counter-Strike.
Okay.
And I was looking right where he was. I knew where he was. He had to make sure. I was going to kill him. Boom. All of a sudden, my screen goes blank. All 4 guys on my team look, and everybody just is astonished, like, what the hell just happened here? And all of a sudden you hear them screaming because they won pistol round. And I was like, oh man. So we gave up 3 rounds because I got alt-tabbed. That's the De Beers curse.
Because the thing is, it's one of those ones where, like, at first you want to go, of course, it's just silly. That was an accident. But, like, the joke is, by the end, even he believed it, didn't he? Even he was like, yeah, I guess I'm cursed.
I felt terrible for him. He is so talented.
Oh, he was
So
mega.
talented.
Yeah. As a result, the sad thing is he's probably an underrated player.
For sure. For sure. U5. Boy, you jogged a memory. I was in U5 for a little bit. With Moses and Hare and DeBears. But I don't remember doing much. I don't know if we did many tournaments or anything. I know we played online, but that was another good group. I see Moses. Is he a commentator now, or?
Yeah, he's massive, mate. He was like an analyst, a commentator. He's like one of the household people. Because the key thing, you know this about Moses, he's one of the most amiable people you ever meet in your life. His brother could be a bit harsh, but he's just like the ultimate like guy to have around in a group of people. You know, he's just a cool guy, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, man! What a great! Oh, wow. Yeah, he was a great dude, and Hare was a great dude, and seeing him on Facebook every now and then we'll touch base. But seeing him grow up with kids and all that, it's wild to see that.
One thing I want to ask about is, obviously we should introduce what your game was like. So if people don't know, you were just like a skilled player, fragger. I think one thing that was always underrated was, maybe it was from ESEA and the demos, I remember, you were a pretty good AWPer, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was man, I don't know what it was. I just clicked with it. I was always known as an AWPer guy. And I could hold down just the quick zoom, shoot, quick flick shots. Man, that was my cup of tea. I really, and then just being aggressive, especially as a terrorist, on T, it was always about pushing hard. And I always told the team, like when we practice, you know, I want to put us in bad situations so that we're ready for those in the matches. So, hey, push hard, put yourself in bad situations, and you got to figure out how to get out of it, because that's going to happen. And so, yeah, as T, it was always push hard, and then CT, I could take quite a few guys out with my out before they got in.
One thing I always wondered about, though, is, right, another thing is, you were actually one of the rare people in the early days who actually understood the concept of media. Like, as you say, you would do interviews with me or people like that, or you would release your demos. Like, the joke was, when I was working at ESEA, we technically had a thing where it was supposed to be that every pro, like, had to give a demo every month. But you can imagine, like, dude, trying to get one out of Ksharp was like trying to get fucking blood out of a stone. You might get one every 6 months, and even then he's probably going to, like, fob you up, oh, next week, come back next week. And then people like Rambo, by the way, never ever sent you a demo no matter what. So, like, some people were nightmare. You would just send, like, you just put them up yourself. Like, there they go. There's one where I dropped 50 in a park. Here's, like, my other one from a match online. Like, you understood kind of, like, what fans wanted, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just gave up everything. You know, I had a good pug. Here you go. You know, and I just saw a couple on YouTube, some old videos, man. That's really wild to see, like, yourself play. But yeah, just getting it out there. And I remember teaching Counter-Strike on the ESEA.
Yeah, doing the lessons.
That's how I got through college. Like, that was my income.
You could make legit money. If people don't know, you could make like $20, $30 an hour, right?
Oh, man. So this was in 2000. I don't know. When did ESEA start?
2004, I think.
Yeah. And I was charging like $45 an hour. And everything that I put up on the schedule, like, hey, I have 8 hours this week, it filled up, like, no problem.
Oh, there was a lot of demand for it, yeah, as well. Loads of people wanted to play and get good, yeah.
And so that was, you know, people work through college. That was my thing. I just 10 hours a week, trained people. I had a curriculum and some, like a whole outline of how the whole hour was going to go. And
yeah, actually, for people who don't know, that's why you were even one of the popular teachers, I remember. It was like people like you and Elude actually did it for real. Like, actually, I'm going to coach you. But this way, I'll tell you some players, I won't mention names maybe to be kind. There were some top pros who did the lessons, dude, and they were almost like fucking arseholes. Like, they would just be like, right, so you paid for an hour, right? You're going to DM against me and you'll like learn like how to play against pro. And they would just beat the shit out of a guy like 1v1 for an hour and be like, right, anyway, I'll send you the demo. It's like, what have you taught him? Like, that's what the fuck. So you were doing real, like, we were trying to help people actually improve, right? Look at the demos and stuff.
Absolutely. You know, it was all about talk to them about how to strafe, how to move back and forth. I'd be like, okay, well shoot me. And I would just strafe back and forth and they would miss every single shot. And I said, okay, well now you need to use your strafing to help you aim. You're just trying to move your mouse. Like, you need to you know, go through that, like, hey, here's how this sprays, here's how this, you know, works. And we went through like just the theory, just the mental part of the game as well. Which I think is 95% of it. And I think we talked about this 20 years ago. that in anything, not just Counter-Strike or gaming, it's life in general. How you perform in any sport, it's a head game too. It's mostly a head game. You look at some of those teams that I was on, we had all the talent. And so how did we lose? Well, F0, boom, we were all mind fucked instantly,
Sure.
you know? And same with poor, when we're playing SK, as soon as you, like, somebody turns a corner and instant headshots you, got to be able to let that go, and a lot of times, it just sticks with you. I can't, how can I beat these guys who are instantly killing me? Like, this is impossible. These guys are the best. You've got to break that mental cycle. And the same thing happens, like right now, I'm 20 years older. What do I do for fun? Well, have you heard of pickleball?
I heard it's like a weird, like, fun sport in America or something, right?
Oh yeah, it's blowing up. It's really big out here in Utah, and I play in tournaments for that.
Okay.
It's like ping pong, tennis had a baby. So
Right. Okay.
yeah, it's a blast. And I'm not like highly ranked, but in my skill set, I could be playing top of my game and everything's good. And then some guy just smacks the ball, hits a perfect shot, and you can just see how I can watch the other team. I can watch my partner, how mentally everything starts to change, and the whole rhythm of the game gets thrown off if you can't break that. That happened a lot in Counter-Strike, and you could see some really good teams just get smashed by teams that you wouldn't think should even be in the tournament. So yeah, I always go back to that the mentality you have and how you think, and being able to move forward when you get dealt a bad hand is absolutely key in these tournaments.
One thing I wanted to know was, why was it, like, in this era when actually, like, ESEA was popping off, you could make money doing lessons and stuff, you were one of the people where you just kind of, like, faded out of the scene? Wasn't it something like you had a girlfriend or something you focused on, or you had some reason that you sort of didn't just keep playing? You could have kept playing more years, right?
Oh, for sure. I felt like I had a bad semester in college. And after getting some bad grades, I had to sit back for a minute, like, oh man, what am I doing here? And how do you balance family? Hey, is esports gonna grow? Is there money in it? Can I make a living off of this? Can I
no one knew at the time, right? You couldn't even guess.
Yeah. And so I went, okay, well, I think I'll do this for fun. I'll do lessons, but I'm gonna focus on school. I'm gonna focus on learning that and developing a career, and go that route, which is safer. And I don't, it's a good plan for a lot of people, including myself. And I also looked at the number of people that were getting into esports, and it's like, how can you be the best without literally dedicating everything?
Sure.
Like I can't take a few weeks off and then just show up for a match. I have to put everything into it, and it's a 10-hour a day job to be the best, at least. And so very commendable to the folks that are still killing it, or found other ways like Moses and Eric to make money or make a living off of esports and your passion. But I just got my degree in electrical engineering and started work.
Now, here's the thing, Jaden. You might think that's where the story ends. Like, I'm not going to know anything more, but you have to understand, I'm Thorin, mate. I know everything. I have to know all the info. So all I'll tell you is this. I looked around and I saw, there's a LAN in St. Louis last year. There's a name on there. That looks familiar. Is there another kid called Jaden or something? Was it you? Have you been playing again recently? Have you been playing CSGO?
Not in a LAN. I still play CSGO. I haven't played much in the last 4 months, but the last year or so I got back into it. Got a half decent computer and I've been playing, and it's a blast. But I haven't gone to any tournaments or anything.
Maybe someone had the same name then. Maybe they nicked your nickname then. Could be.
Yeah, they probably did. It was probably Grazzle, little bastard.
Okay, there you go. What I want to know is this then. Like, as you say, I also think as well, because you actually had the right mindset, mate. Like you said, when you were playing the matches, obviously you're serious. But other than that, you understood it could be a social event. Like, I actually think that's one area. I was too much of a nerd back then, mate. A lot of us, when we went to these tournaments, we were just too serious. We were like on the computer. Then it was like afterwards, you just awkwardly talk to people like, oh, hello. Like, I can't really talk about anything except esports. Like, a lot of us weren't that social, mate. You actually understood sort of like have a good time. Like, when you go to the local lands, make it sort of fun, have beers with the people, become friends with people. Like, I noticed you didn't just have teammates, you had a lot of friends that lasted years and years, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's what it was all about. I mean, that's what made it fun. That's what made it rewarding. Like when I look back at all the tournaments, I actually don't remember how we placed most of the time. I think about all the funny stories with Bobby with sickness and Ice Salmon and all those guys, and just the crazy stuff that we did after. It was a blast. And I think that's absolutely key. If you're not doing it to hang out and have a great time, I don't know what you're doing. You got to go have fun.
You know, one thing that's weird is like my perspective was always coloured when I came in the NA scene, because since I was going to the events, I was interviewing like all the top pros. It meant that a lot of my early friends were like absolute best NA pros, and you can imagine they were quite elitist, Jaden. They all thought, everyone who wasn't them was shit. And the joke was, if they ever lost to anyone like you online, it was just cheating. He'll be shit online. He'll never beat me. And what I noticed was, this is how you could tell when people actually got good. Once they'd lost enough times or enough lands, then gradually they'd be like, all right, maybe he's all right then. He's good now. Like, it's like you had to, they were super, like I say, it was like too cliquey at the top to actually get like the respect of these players. You didn't just get it overnight.
Right. And it takes time. You also have to humble yourself a bit. When somebody routinely beats you, it's like, oh, maybe they're not getting lucky. What are they doing? And recognizing that there might be some different strats or play styles that you can help develop your game with. And not being above that is how you stay on top. And I think Fatality is probably the best example of that.
Sure.
Anytime he would get whipped, he would learn from that. He would watch that demo and how did I lose this? What did I do wrong? And how can I get better?
Do you remember, was there ever like a team where you wanted to join them, or you could have joined, or it was going to happen, it just didn't happen? Like, was there ever like the big move that you never got to make?
The one that I should have, not should have, after 3D after we lost that CPL, Eric and I were both, I think, too quick to just let go. I think we could have, after the fact, there were things that came up that I think we could have stayed in 3D, and I think that we could have developed further that team.
Oh, did you also kind of just assume like, oh, they're going to kick me now because they're all like the famous players? Do you just assume like we're out then?
Yeah, we were like, oh, that's going to get solely blamed on us.
Right. You were right, but yeah, maybe you could have waited and see if they cooled off a bit.
Yeah, I felt like if we held off, it would have been different. I think we would have probably ended up staying and maybe adding some more folks, and then seeing maybe over the next 6 months how it goes. But we just went, we're out.
Makes sense. Right. What I wanted to know was some of the players you played with. Let me ask you about a few of them. So obviously you played with the infamous Ksharp, the legendary Ksharp. But he was, by the way, one of the ultimate. I actually was friends with him, so I even knew this as well. Right. He was the player where, if people don't know, like everyone in the whole world was so horny to watch like a demo of this guy play because he was really good. But you only ever released like 3 or 4 in the early days. And I even said to him one time, like, why are you an arsehole? Like, why don't you just release more? And this is that he actually sort of got it, because here's the fucked up thing he told me. He goes, because when I release them, they have to be the absolute best. That's why I'm Ksharp. So I was like, okay, so he's not releasing normal ones. But I'll tell you what, that does make you like super mystique, legendary. Everyone's going to be super, oh my God, he's the crazy player ever. But I have heard also, and I've seen some things in Pogs, mate. It's not a joke. When he would play in like scrims, he could just do like impossible shit, right?
Oh yeah. He was phenomenal, and he always took it serious. There were when we played games, it was he's 100% in all the time. But he was also the nicest kid ever.
Yes.
There was no, like, he wasn't shady. He didn't have like motives or anything. He wanted to play, and he wanted to be the best. And he was incredible. There were some times when, we definitely lost this round, and he would whip out 3 or 4 guys, and oh wow, that was incredible.
And then obviously his sort of partner in crime, Rambo, another all-time great player, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Rambo, very, very similar to Ksharp, nicest guy in the world outside of the game. When he got in, he was dialed in 100%, go. And he was extremely talented, and very, very bright. And he was also like our strategist. Ronald had to be in on that strat in order for it to work. He was incredible to work with. Even after 3D and before, he was always one of my personal idols playing the game
Right.
early on.
And then when you were in tech, even though this guy also unfortunately got like a bad rep for like LANs, because here's the problem people don't know about Elude, right? He was obviously the best player in Cal sometimes, but there's two reasons why. One, he was one of those people who just was like in the perfect location with the most god internet ever, and the joke was he'd always have like less ping. But at the same time, I always tell people, it's not like he actually was used as an aimbot. He was really good. So the problem is, yeah, he's going to be a little bit worse on the LANs, but then I think he also had a bit of the DeBears where he had a few LANs that he just bombed and they didn't go far enough. You know, obviously you guys were in that tech team. This guy was a skilled player though, right?
Oh, absolutely. He was phenomenal. And he would always play with Goki, his brother. And so the joke was always that like Goki's like worse than Elude. And I remember in that CPL there, Goki was just going bananas on Inferno, and he was like 19-5 or something, and he was messaging like this. This is what I loved about our teams. That he would just start typing and be like, "Hey guys, you see the scoreboard?" You know?
Oh, they were trash talking each other.
Okay. Oh yeah, all the time. Okay. He was incredible, and he was a very shy guy too, outside of the game. But he was very determined to be the best as well. He was top player in the U.S. He was great.
And then you mentioned him early, but obviously the main guy in Riot Squad was Sickness, Bobby Maini. The thing with him, though, was he actually was quite well known because he released a lot of good demos. But, like, man, he had some insane clips as well. Like, this was another guy who was just, like, no-scoping people all over the fucking place.
Oh, yeah. The thing that he brought to the table the most, like, so he's probably not the most talented. He had some great shots, but his leadership and his personality made Riot Squad one of the most cohesive teams I've ever played on. He was a leader. That was his team. And it wasn't that, he threw that around. It was, he built a team that was fun to play on, fun to be around, fun off the game. When we go out to eat and we'd go hang out, he was the guy. And I'll never forget, the impact he had on my life, just watching him be a leader and taking some of his leadership aspects, through my whole life, my career. So absolutely, he was a great leader, probably the best team that I've been on, and mostly because of his leadership and his personality. He's such a damn goofball. We had so much fun.
Who is a player that you never got to play with that you would have liked to have had as a teammate?
Actually, I just saw his name. He was in Weekend Warriors.
Let me think. Method?
Yeah, that's it. Method. That guy was phenomenal. I wish I could have played on a team with him. He was incredible. And Weekend Warriors is one of the most underrated teams. I felt like they were incredible. So for sure him. And I just got to play with most of the good folks back then.
True.
But yeah, his name comes up immediately.
This will sound weird, so I'll say it like this. If someone never watched Jaden, as you say, to be fair, there is that guy who puts up he's called the Ancient CS on YouTube. He puts up all POV demos, so you can go see some. I'm sure there'll be a couple from you. Right? If someone never saw you play, how would you want them to remember you? What player was Jaden? What was he like?
It wasn't one style. It was I could change based on who I was playing and how to beat that style. But generally speaking, aggressive. I would take a lot of risks on both sides, but consistency and aggressiveness were my two traits.
At the end of this interview, do you have some final message for people? Do you want to thank anyone or say hello to someone if they watch it?
Oh man, I got everybody that I played with, and the last week since you messaged me, I've just been constantly thinking about this time frame in my life. Obviously DeBears, he was my right hand man. He was a brother. Loved everything that we did. Grazzle, all the guys in EU. 3D, Ksharp, Ronald, Bullseye, all those guys were great. Riot Squad, I know I'm just going to miss a bunch of people, so I'll stop listing them out. But yeah, everybody. When I look back at that time frame in my life, it is warm, fond memories. And even Funk, I'll throw it out there. Like
Okay.
He's a good dude. He's paid his dues,
Okay.
man. And I'm not gonna be. We're friends on Facebook. I've seen him grow over the last 20 years. So super happy for him. And when I think to people who are aspiring to get into esports and take that road, I'm in a position in my organization where I do a lot of hiring, and I seek out talent from an engineering or manufacturing or control standpoint, and folks that have gaming, or when we interview, start to pick up on those things. Gamers tend to be some of the best employees, because they are trying to be the best in their position. That competitive attitude transfers right into the workplace. And when I think about work, I think about what really fulfills you. Is it going and saving the company a bunch of money? Well, that's not fulfilling to me. What makes me happy, what makes me go home and go, man, I really enjoy my job, is to improve the quality of life for our folks at work. So I work in manufacturing. So the folks that operate the equipment, if their life's better, that makes me feel really good. So if I find a way to solve a problem for them, that's great. And gamers are the best at doing this. They are competitive. They want to fix things. They want to improve processes and make things better. They're technically brilliant, and they're fierce, and they need little direction on what to do. So I would say if you're getting into esports, and you're thinking about putting off like college or anything like that, up to you. Go. Just know that the skills that you're learning and you're developing in the esports area are very transferable in your career.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadju, Hades Good, Matt Pugnatio Racula, Adam Oaks, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Jensen Go, Kovacevic, Ord, Pacey, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Toucan, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Would you like to ask a question in one of those monthly AMAs where sometimes I roast people? Do you want teasers to find out who the guests are for upcoming shows and interviews I'm doing? Maybe you want to be part of one of those cool, lengthy esports discussions that I have. Well, if any of those perks sound tantalizing to you, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? Via the Patreon link in the description box below.